Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. As you guys can see, if you guys haven't been watching Lakers Nation, I'm traveling. I'm spending some time with family right now in South Carolina. I'll be back in studio tomorrow. Keith, still in his normal place. In fact, Keith, this is a rarity. You and I are actually in the same time zone. So that doesn't happen very often, but we're in the same time zone right now, and we've got plenty to talk about today.
Yeah, we do. We're gonna we missed yesterday just because of travel and a bunch of stuff going on, and just so everybody knows, we're gonna speed run through today's episode because we've got a lot of things to get caught up on. But we're gonna whip through these topics. Good news, back to normal tomorrow, back to normal rest of the week. Front Office Friday on Friday, all that good stuff.
Let's go.
And Front Office Friday will be a Front Office Friday NCAA Conference Tournament edition with basketball on all day starting tomorrow morning. We've got conference tournaments kicking off, so good time around the TV NBA in college basketball landscape. If you love hoops, you can find it all day long.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Over on the basketball bulletin, Bryce Simon debuted with his draft stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. I know he's got another piece coming out real soon. In fact, I believe it's even tomorrow. I had a piece come out yesterday over there as well about the NBA's MVP race, as well as everything that's going on with all the injuries around the NBA, which we're going to get into more of that. But I'll put the link for the basketball bulletin in the description down below, so you guys can check that out. Keith, I guess let's just get into our first news topic of the day.
Yeah,
and it's a big one. Steph Curry should be back soon. You know, we've got so many injuries to talk about, so many that are downers, and oh no, this guy's out for so long. Steph Curry coming back. This is great news, obviously, for the Warriors who are in their playoff push and the NBA in general. The NBA is just better with Steph Curry in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going to happen is he's returning to on-court workouts in California. He will join the team for practice on Friday in Los Angeles. So definitely out Wednesday's game and then be reevaluated Friday for the weekend game. So good news. It could have been worse. We know Steph Curry and ankle injuries, sometimes that is worse, but this one sounds like it's not all that bad, and we'll probably see him before the end of the week.
And yes, it is because the Lakers are on the schedule this weekend. That is the magical power that heals all. Although I don't think us Lakers fans can complain too much after the Lakers got to play what was left of the Timberwolves after they dealt with so many injuries the other night.
And that's a pretty big game there. Like, for them, they may decide who has home court advantage in that 9-10 matchup, or maybe could be one where it's, all right, you lose this one, your chances of getting out of the 9-10 play-in game may be kind of dwindling. It's crazy when you look around how few games teams have left now.
Right.
We're getting down into the 15, 16, 17 range for most teams. So we're getting down to it.
Keith, I'm starting to hear the comment from a lot of fans who I interact with are saying, it feels like the season just started. I can't believe it's ending already. I'm hearing a lot of that. And I think that's a great thing for the NBA, for the league in general, that it feels like it goes by really fast. But yeah, here we are. It really doesn't feel like it was all that long ago. We were talking about the season starting, and now we're talking about it winding down. I mean, the teams are counting down how many games they've got left on the schedule, and things are getting real tight in the standings.
Yeah, 1 month from tomorrow is the last day of the regular season, the 13th of March tomorrow, and the NBA regular season ends on April 13th. So we're in a place where, yeah, it's going to be going by, or I'm sorry, April 14th. This season ends. My fault. So we still got a couple days, but we're basically a month left. So we're going to be whipping right by.
All right, let's get to this is, I guess, bittersweet. If we want to go there, Alperen Sengun, he's out for the season, which is not good, but it could have been much worse. Watching that injury, he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. His season is going to be over. He's been one of the bright young stars in the NBA. He's played great for the Houston Rockets. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league. I really enjoy what he brings to the game. But out for the season, that's unfortunate. But again, the good thing is his injury initially was feared to be much, much worse. It sounds like he's been able to avoid anything too serious here, even though this will mean that's it for him this season.
Yeah, the reporting now is that he's got a grade 3 right ankle sprain. He said as he was coming off the court, he he said to somebody, I think it was a teammate or maybe it was a coach or a trainer, I effed up my ankle, and it looked like he effed up everything when
Right.
he went down. I mean, his ankle, his knee, like his whole leg kind of buckled on that play. And for those who didn't see it, basically he contested a shot by, I believe it was Sabonis, at the rim, and they kind of crashed into each other late in the game. The Rockets actually won in Sacramento, and Sengun went down. So this is going to have no impact on the rest of this season. The Rockets are out of it. They've lost too many games to be, they would have to have an incredible close to the year to make it into the play-in tournament even. But it just stinks that he's going to miss time. And this is just, again, it's only like 15, 16 games, but this is all missed evaluation time for the Rockets the rest of the way. So it's but they know what Sengun can do, so you're not too concerned about that. And obviously, the most important thing is this isn't any kind of torn ACL or major ankle injury that's going to cost him missing time into next season or anything like that, which would have been really a bummer considering where the Rockets, I think, are hoping to go next year.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a team that hopes to be on the rise next season. I'm sure they're going to be active in free agency, and of course. They're a team that we heard the Mikal Bridges rumors. I think they're a team that's going to have something to say on the trade front this summer too. So again, this isn't going to get into next season. That's great news for Houston. Bummer to see a great player not playing for the rest of this year. But again, could have been worse, and this does set up Houston for a very big summer. This is something that's been going around. You've seen games have been lower scoring since the All-Star break. And people have been putting two and two together, saying, games have been lower scoring since the All-Star break. Adam Silver was not thrilled with how high scoring the All-Star game was. There was rumor that the NBA was going to try to enhance the powers of NBA defenses, that maybe they've gone too far to support offenses. So people started putting it all together and saying, oh, the NBA must have changed rules mid-season and told the referees to stop calling so many fouls, and that's resulted in lower scoring games. And we saw an extreme example. We saw that Knicks 76ers game with scores in the 70s at the end, not at halftime, at the end of the game. The scores were in the 70s. But the NBA says, nope, we didn't change a thing. This is just something that's kind of happening by happenstance. Keith, I take it you don't buy the NBA's explanation here.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving the okay, sure symbol here. Yeah, I don't believe it. Like I think that is a spot where it is you're fibbing. Now I don't think they changed the rules. I think all they told the officials was, hey, let defenders be a little bit more physical. I think they have curbed the defensive 3-second calls. They're being a lot more liberal with that as well. I think they're maybe instead of applying the letter of the law, we're doing a lot more spirit of the law kind of thing. So
yeah,
and I think it's fine. I think no, that Knicks 76ers game was horrendous. So nobody wants that, but I get it when people are, I don't want any more 140 to 135 games either. So I'm fine if we, find some middle ground here and get it. I also think it's good if we're going to allow guys to be a lot more physical. I have no problem with turning it on in the beginning to middle of March instead of the first day of the playoffs. And all of a sudden, the playoff games get a little bit uglier than they need to be. If you're going to call it this way, give the teams a month here to adjust to it and go from there. So I have no real issue with this, but yeah, I don't buy for a minute when the league says, oh, we didn't do anything.
You can have, I mean, same thing with laws in our society. You can have laws on the books. If those are not enforced, nobody's following them. You could have a law that the maximum speed is 20 miles per hour, but there's going to be no tickets given for anybody who breaks that law. Well, then nobody's going to follow that, right? So if the NBA they could still have the rules be a certain way, but if that's not how they're going to actually be enforced, then it doesn't matter. So it could be semantics here a little bit, where have they officially made changes to the game on paper? No, but if they've changed the way those rules are being enforced, then that does indeed change the game. And the other thing, it begs the question, why, right? Like, if there have been changes, why not just say there have been changes? Well, wouldn't they have to, if they were going to make an official change, that would have to go through the competition committee?
Yeah.
So is this just a workaround for now? Like, hey, we're going to change the way the game is called. We're just going to change the way it's enforced. And then this summer, maybe we'll make some official tweaks and go through the proper channels.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the thought process here is, hey, let's just let guys do this now, and we'll kind of shoehorn this in here and just tell the refs, hey, let them be a little bit more physical. And there's always the unintended consequences, right? Because you can let the physicality go a little too far. And if we do allow this now and then continue to go further come playoff time, we may be back down into a bunch of 90 to 85 playoff games that are ugly. But I'll tell you, last night, so right, this is part of the reason I haven't written anything on the basketball bulletin in the last couple of days. The Celtics are on the West Coast. They played the Trailblazers at 10:30 Eastern, which we all know is really like a 10:38 tip-off.
Yeah.
The game was over at 12:38. It was like a 2-hour game when this game ended, which is, for this East Coaster, thank God. Like, I was able to, wrap up, do what I had to do at the end of the game and get to bed at a, semi-reasonable hour, versus it could have very well been one of these games where each team took 30 plus free throws and it was 115 before it ended. So I'm fine with this if they're going to be a little bit more physical. I've said it before, the very best players, they'll be fine. They'll adjust, they'll play through it, and they'll figure it out. And then we all kind of win.
And maybe the ultimate silver lining beyond just getting guys ready for the playoffs, maybe getting Team USA ready for the Olympics as well, getting those players ready for the way the Olympic game is going to be officiated.
We'll take it.
All right. Speaking of international rules, the NBA reportedly considering a European league. Keith, what is a standalone European league, but it's the NBA? How exactly is this expected to work?
Yeah, so this report came out of Sportico, which covers a lot of the business of sports and is tied in worldwide. And one of the things that said is the NBA was approached by various potential stakeholders of saying, hey, how can we increase NBA business in Europe? NBA it's wildly popular in Europe, but their actual business that gets done in Europe it's a blip compared to, obviously compared to North America, but even China, Japan, Australia, places like that. So one of the thoughts that's out there is, could the NBA create an offshoot league similar to what they've done with the Basketball Africa League, where they'd have a European league that is fully sponsored and run to some degree by the NBA. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's European divisions, but if you wanted to go 20 years down the line, maybe it could be. Maybe we could finally get to a point where we have NBA teams and it is one continent. Europe they crown a champion of Europe. Then at the end of the year, that champion plays the champion from the regular NBA as we know it, and that crowns a true world champion, right? And we can kind of stop all this, the Nuggets aren't really the world champions because they didn't play every other team, which is, that's fine if people want to say that. I don't have any real problem with it, but you could maybe get to that place. Now, this will take decades to pull off.
It's not happening.
Because you're going to have to get the biggest clubs in Europe to say, all right, we will leave the leagues we're in to join this. But it's certainly possible if there's enough money behind it. We already saw, now it ultimately failed for a lot of other reasons, but they were basically ready to create a new Champions League type of soccer system, which was going to pull the biggest clubs from all over Europe into one league and be, hey, this is our new league. We no longer are you playing to win the Premier League to make the Champions League. It is, you don't even play in the Premier League. You're just in this Super League now. And that's what we're all going to be. And it failed for a whole bunch of reasons, not the least of people were like, what do you mean you're leaving our traditional domestic league?
Right.
So that would be a major roadblock with this too. But it's at least interesting to think about, where this could potentially go down the line for the league. And it also mentioned in the article that the NBA thinks the basketball ecosystem in Europe and the Middle East could be worth as much as $3 billion in annual revenue. So
Wow.
it just tells you there's an appetite for basketball in the world, and the NBA is going to do what they can to try to be a big part of that.
And I think this is inevitable. This is coming. I hope this doesn't go the way of eventually there is a Middle Eastern based basketball league luring over top talent, kind of like what we've seen in golf or something like that.
Sure.
But
Soccer too.
an NBA Europe, and we're talking 20, 30 years from now, we could see an NBA in Europe. We could see there could be an NBA in the Middle East. There could be, and you could have these big unifying tournaments at the end of it all. That would be really interesting and a way to certainly expand the game globally. My only request, though, Keith, let's say we get into an NBA Europe and you get the champions of Europe going up against the champions of North America. The overall title, it needs to be a belt. Make it a belt like WWE style, and we'll call that the World Championship. Sign me up for that.
Look, if that's what you need, fine. I don't care. I'm never going to have it, so it doesn't matter to me. And if it is going to be a belt, then it needs to be the massive WCW NWA belt that Ric Flair brought with him to WWF back in the day, because it's got to be something grand that it's not even wearable with that. Yeah, I think what you said with the idea of like, are they going to be luring big stars over? I wonder if this is part of the league saying, let's get out in front of this, where we're a part of this versus we're losing players to this. So it's because it's happened in soccer. Now they're not getting the 25-year-old global superstars necessarily. They're more getting the 35-year-old past or at the tail end of their
payday type guy.
Careers. Exactly. So that's what we want to be very, very cautious of with this. But yeah, I think this could be a way of the league saying, let's get out in front of this and let's be partners in whatever we form here versus competitors.
That makes sense. All right, let's get to some more good news. OG Anunoby back this week. The Knicks have been incredibly injured. Their entire starting front court has been injured. Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and then OG Anunoby as well. But OG Anunoby will be back this week. Obviously, they swung a big trade midseason with the Raptors to go get Anunoby. He's a big part of what they're planning on doing. So the Knicks, they were on a tear for a little bit there, and now injuries have really kind of knocked them back. But good to see OG Anunoby returning to the floor. If the Knicks are going to make noise this postseason, they need these guys back. And so this is a good thing that they can get some guys back and start trying to rebuild some of that chemistry, get back some of that momentum before they actually start the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Knicks had a win over Orlando the other day, which kind of bumped them back into the 4th seed in the East. So they're 3.5 behind Cleveland, as Cleveland has continued to kind of stumble a little bit. I think that's probably enough distance that the Cavs will stay ahead of the Knicks. But the Knicks are positioned. You get a few of these guys back, and now all of a sudden you're probably a top 6, but you're probably a top 4 team. If everyone's healthy, well, I guess if Joel Embiid magically came back immediately and was healthy, I'd like Philly the best out of that group. But the Knicks are right there in that grouping, because Miami's now slipped back again. They've lost 3 in a row. They're down to 8th. The Pacers continue to be up and down. The Magic they were playing really well. Now they've stumbled a little bit here. So it's going to be a battle all the way between 4 and 8. Still, it's only 2 games between those what is that, 5 teams between 4 and 8. So that's going to continue to be a fun race to watch all the way through.
Speaking of the 76ers, you can see that they are right now just above the play-in line. They did drop below briefly the play-in line, but they're going to get some good news here. Tyrese Maxey back in action tonight. Again, no Joel Embiid yet, but they were without Maxey, and Embiid kind of had them in true free fall. They really want to stay above that 7 seed, above the play-in line if possible. And Maxey being back in action, was dealing with a concussion. That is extremely important to their chances of actually getting that done.
I think if you're Philly, obviously you probably wouldn't mind getting in the 4-5, but you got to be looking at it and saying, if we could maintain 6 and get Cleveland, just out of the fact it's not Giannis and Dame, and Cleveland doesn't have a lot of playoff experience together as a group, and we have Embiid coming back, you're going to start to feel pretty good about, hey, we can we can do this in the first round, and then it's
Mhm.
let's get into the second round and just see where it goes from there. So I think Philly's in position here, and it sounds like Embiid is slowly starting to ramp things up, maybe just a little bit. We've starting to hear some reports of people are seeing him doing stuff, so that sounds like that's good news. I would say again, we haven't heard any kind of definitive timeline, but my guess would be you'd love to get him back at the beginning part of April and have a week or two where he can just play in a handful of games before you gotta either hit the playoffs or the play-in tournament. He's though that's not his first time back on the floor, and ultimately would be at that point a few months.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's Embiid sightings out there, so that's again a good thing, a good thing for the 76ers. Look, they're right now. We've talked about it before, but it really is. Do they get Embiid back, and then what version of Joel Embiid do they get if he does come back? What does that actually look like? That's everything for them. That is their whole season. That's the playoffs. That's they are. If they get 50% Joel Embiid, they're not going anywhere. If they get 90% Joel Embiid, okay, suddenly they're a dangerous team. Not saying that they would be my pick to make the finals or anything, but they'd be a tough out for just about anybody. So how far they go, and I love Tyrese Maxey, he's fantastic, but what happens with them from here on out, it is all down to Joel Embiid. Can Tyrese Maxey and the rest of the guys keep their heads above water, keep them above that 7 seed? And as you said, Keith, maybe in that matchup with the Cavs, that would help them out. And then Joel Embiid, if he's back, who knows what can happen from there. Again, still not my finals pick or anything at this point, but how far they go, how long their season is going to last, it's all hinging upon Joel Embiid.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. Because without him, they're not even really a pesky first round out, I don't think, for anybody. I think they'd just be out, period.
All right. Also looking at that standings table here in the East, the Magic currently sitting in the 5 seed. As you said, they're now half a game back from New York. They did briefly move up to 4, but they do decide to give Jamal Mosley, their coach, a 4-year extension. Keith, we talked about the Magic as them potentially being next year's OKC from this year, who the team that's the young up-and-coming team that then makes the big leap the following season. This, to me, says, yep, we believe we're on the right path, and we want to buy into this group and this coach, and we're going to see how far we can take it here.
Yeah, this is great, in my opinion, because a lot we see in the NBA, and I will say this is happening less, but it used to be you start a rebuild and you hire a new coach. And if everything goes well, that coach grows into the role, grows with the team, and they push up the standings.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it becomes, all right, it's time to win, they go hire a more experienced coach or a been there, done that guy or something like this. In this case, I think this is great that Orlando's basically saying, hey, Jamal Mosley, who is an assistant forever in the league, like 15 years, I think, or more. And we're super happy with the job you've done. The Magic were a sneaky good team a year ago when they were playing meaningful games all the way to the end and almost made the play-in tournament and then fell out very, very late. And now what's happened is they've built on that. And this is their chance to have their first winning record in several years, first playoff appearance since 2020. Mm-hmm. So things are really headed in the right direction. And Jamal Mosley is a big, big part of it. Having been around him and the team, there's a level of accountability that he instilled from day one. And he didn't come in with the attitude of, well, we're a bad team, so if we do X, Y, and Z, it doesn't really matter. No, he came in with, we need to start building better habits now. Right. We lose games because the other teams have more talent or experience. That is what it is. But we cannot be throwing the ball away 100 times a game. We cannot be missing our defensive assignments. And he really, with a very young roster, put guys in a position where it's, hey, if you're not going to do the things we're asking you to do that we know you can do, you're not going to play. And we've seen him at times. Guys will go missing from the rotation because he's really, he does hold them accountable, but he also is then, all right, you're ready to work now? You're right back in there. You're right part of the mix. So I think he's great.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And I agree with you on that notion of it's nice to see a team commit to a coach that actually got them through the rebuild. Because you're right. Oftentimes it's, okay, this guy got us so far and you're done. And we see it sometimes with players too. Okay, you've built up to this point. and younger guy. All right, see you later. We're going to trade you plus some other stuff, and we're going to get the win now guy. Same thing happens on the coaching front.
Yeah.
Coach takes the team so far, and then, all right, see you later. It was kind of like what Brett Brown in Philly, and we've seen a number of other coaches who have been in that position where they just wind up being passed along for somebody that's seen as more of a stabilizer, somebody that's got more experience. So I think this is kind of a breath of fresh air in that way, that you've got a coach that you're letting grow with the team, and you're letting that coach also take the reins for what should be now a team that's in the playoffs for 3, 4, 5 years, which is a lifetime in NBA years. So this is I think a really great thing to see for Orlando, for Jamal Mosley, and for the future of the club.
Yes, the future's extremely right here. It's as Jeff Weltman, the front office executive that leads everything, is fond of saying, it's a great day to be an Orlando Magic fan, and he's really not. It became kind of a joke, but he's really not wrong. Like it really is. Like the future is extremely bright for them.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap things up for today, but we do appreciate you coming in and joining the show. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube. If you're over on the podcast side, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, just follow us there as well. I'll be back in studio tomorrow, so I'll be back in our normal location, but for now, I'm going to go grab some dinner with family before I got to get out tomorrow. Keith, this was great, though. I'm glad we were able to get this in today and go through some of these big stories, because this is some important stuff today.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything we missed, we'll get to it tomorrow, because there's still a couple things from the weekend, but we'll get to it. And then more only a couple days closer to Front Office Friday, and we'll have a lot of fun there too.
Let's go. All right, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.